Happy Friday. Okay, let's have a word of prayer. Holy God in heaven, we thank you once again for this privilege, the opportunity that you have granted us to gather here to understand the nature of thy kingdom. I pray, as far as this congregation is concerned, may you send thy holy angels to waft back their wings and to hold back the force of evil, that we may have a peaceful environment to reason with you from cause to effect. Give us clarity of thoughts and mind, that, Lord, we may grapple with difficult thoughts that we may have along the way. We pray for the leadership of this movement, the members at large, wherever they are. May you help us to experience joy in the journey. In Jesus' name we pray, trusting and believing. Before I just want to welcome all of us to my third presentation. And before I introduce that topic, I want to make a little bit clarification on what I had discussed before, the nature of unchecked presidency and the implication it has for the Sunday law period, and especially from Sunday law towards the close of probation. We have a presidency where it's unchecked. There's no proper oversight. I just want to take 2 minutes to discuss Dick Cheney. Someone might have a question: is Dick Cheney a subject of prophecy? And to answer that, I'll say yes, he's part, and there is something that his behavior taught us. And I say, before he passed on, I think November 3rd of 2025, he was a staunch Republican. But right along, we can see him defecting from Trumpism. He was against January 6th. He voted for a Democrat in 2024, together with his daughter. And there's a lot that it teaches us. And to realize that, little did he know that his own behavior had made Trump who he is by then. But to add more thoughts, I just want to draw this line. We discussed Ipsos. We say that was 2016. And then we're going to have 2018. And then I'm going to introduce 2019, 2021, and then 2024. You realize that in the battle of the idea of Pyrrhus, because it's Pyrrhus who brought us to this point, we can have something like this. So here we have the Battle of Ipsus, and then we have Heraclea, then we have Asculum, Beneventum, and then Argos. So this is an external war between the war information between the king of the north and the king of the south. But if you narrow your sight, we narrow ourselves internally, we can see, the issue about to do with voting within the United States of America. If we narrow this battle within the United States, so we'll say there was an election here, right? This is a presidential election. Election depends how you view it. This is a presidential election. It was very polarized. And the main reason for this election, if you are careful to tread the story, the Republican was so much afraid that the Democrats had taken control in 2008. They took control of an executive branch which was expanded for almost 2 terms by the Bush administration. So they were very afraid, and especially they were afraid because a president who is black has entered into the White House. So they had that fear. So did we have an election 2018? Good, midterm election. Something to do with an election. So what happened in this midterm election? We had who controlled the Senate and the House of Representatives. Who controlled the Senate? Republicans, right? And then these one are Democrats. 2019, do you have something to do with the election? Something to do with voting? Yes? An impeachment trial, right? So those who control the House in 2018, they issued the first impeachment motion against Donald Trump. For what reason? Abuse of power and obstruction of what? Congress. The idea is that, you know, Donald Trump was seeking external support against who? Biden, in order to influence the 2020 election, right? So it had to do with about election. So we can see a lot of polarization here. But let me just come 2021. We have what to do? Anything to do with the election? Yeah, January 6th, certification of Joe Biden election. Now, let me ask you, compare Mike Pence. I want to bring one figure there. Mike Pence and Dick Cheney. Who are they? Dick Cheney and Mike Pence. Who are they? They are vice president. What's the difference between Dick Cheney and Mike Pence? Both are Republicans, right? Both are vice president. But what is the stark difference between Mike Pence and Dick Cheney? Benta, what's the difference? Can you contrast them? It's just the answer is just there. What did Pence do? January 6th. Markel. Good. Any additional thoughts? So because Donald Trump was expecting who? Mike Pence to come to his camp to support him to obstruct the certification of Joe Biden's what? Presidency. So what does that teaches us? Ever heard of something called partisanship? Yeah. Like, for example, whether you are a Democrat or a Republican, when people choose you to represent them in the Congress, are they choosing you to represent the party or just the Constitution of the nation? To defend what? The Constitution. But the problem now, when you get to the Congress, there's so much division that people are faithful to their party than to what? To the Constitution. And what Mike Pence demonstrated in January 6th, let us leave partisanship aside and do what? Support the Constitution. You get that? And you can see that that's what Mike Pence was demonstrating there. And you know, Trump hated him a lot after that. And he went even to pick another presidential candidate in 2024. He hated Mike. That is the reason. And you could hear that those people who, you know, who stormed the Capitol, what were they chanting? Hang Mike Pence, because Mike Pence could not stand in their orbit. So in relation to Dick Cheney, what is teaching us that we should not destroy our foundation just because we want to serve our parties. Let us be honest with the Constitution. Prophecy tells us that, yes, it's George Bush, you can see in 2001. But let us not forget to look at the civil servants, the administrators, especially the top senior official like Dick Cheney. He was the one who paved the way for all this problem. Why couldn't he also behave like Mike Pence? And this also brings the idea of expertise, you know? So Trump identified loopholes in January 6th. And that loophole is Mike Pence. So he realized, if I'm going to succeed in my second administration, I'm not going to work with expertise. because they are going to give me trouble. And one of the experts who gave trouble to Donald Trump during his first term, does anyone remember James Mattis? 2018, James Mattis, Secretary of Defense, the one that Trump, fired because he was not like aligning with the Trump administration, right? We had James Mattis. Who else was not so much aligned with Trump, that Trump had a problem with them? We can call Mike Pompeo, right? When Donald Trump was announcing his second cabinet, he mentioned Pompeo and said, Pompeo is my friend, but I'm not going to consider him to be part of my cabinet. So Trump loved to sit around people who are not experts in government issue. For example, in the Senate, for example, even here in Kenya, when senators go to the Senate, they usually form committees. They bring senators, maybe those who are learned. We have a committee for health, committee for security, committee for etc. So in the Senate of the United States, we have this called Foreign Relation Committee. And this Foreign Relation Committee is dealing with US foreign policy. And now Trump, because he knows that if he's going to fill in expertise in his government, they're going to give him trouble. He packed a lot, people who don't have, experience in government. And that's why when Trump says something, everyone is quiet. They can't do anything. So with that question, if Dick Cheney is a subject of prophecy, I would say yes. It teaches us about partisanship. Are you loyal to the Constitution, or are you loyal to your party? So with that, I think I just want to wrap this one and then introduce my third topic. Something to do with partisanship. I want to just, for example, I'm sorry, just to add one thought. So this is 2001. We have these symbols brought down, and then we have authorization for use of force. What is that word that I'd written before? AU what? Authorization for use? Military force, yeah, thank you, military force. So it was first passed in 2001 and then later passed in 2002 for invasion of Iraq, preparation to invade Iraq in 2003. So this thing to do with partisanship, let's take, for example, in 2013, who is the president? Barack Obama. So President Bashar al-Assad of Syria had just used chemical weapons against against the civilian in Syria. And when Obama saw that, they had to react based on their international foreign policy. And Obama is an expert of constitution, so he had to seek congressional support. And because he had this in mind, but he thought this one did not justify that people should use force. Because even this one, when it was passed, they were not justified to go to Afghanistan or even Iraq, because invasion of Iraq and Afghanistan, none could justify that. So Obama just wanted to seek congressional support, but the Republicans say, no, we are not going to support that one, you see. Now, 2015, Obama again did something. Does anyone know about Iran nuclear deal? The 2015 Iranian nuclear deal that people were afraid, for example, the International Atomic Agency, which actually gives an oversight for countries which produce atomic or rather nuclear weapons. There was so much concern about Iran that it was stockpiling, nuclear facilities. So Obama say, okay, why can't we, instead of just using force to destroy all those issues, let us have a discussion with Iran that we can regulate the production of nuclear weapons. And he introduced what we call the Iran nuclear deal. But there's one problem. You can't do that without congressional vote. oversight or support, because that is dealing with war. And that is 2015. Now, 2014, we know we had what? US midterm election. Who control both houses? Republicans, they control both the Senate and House of Representatives. Now, when Obama sought congressional support, he knew very well Republicans will not support that, because majority of them are staunch support of Israel. So Obama had to use a backdoor. And what is the backdoor? The executive order. So the Iran nuclear deal, it was weak because it was put in place using what? The executive order, not through Congress. And that's the reason why in 2018, when Trump came back in office, how did he just pull down that 2015 Iran nuclear deal? Through an executive order. But if Congress could have put an infrastructure to support the 2015 Iranian deal, I don't think Trump had authority to come out of that deal. So that shows you in 2015 how election of partisanship affected President Obama together. So right now, as we speak, Donald Trump is really unchecked. And as tomorrow we'll be discussing the third obstacle, Egypt. We'll try to figure out how that happens. So you need to have at least a knowledge of what we have been discussing here in order tomorrow we catch up. So this third topic, I'm not going to take much time. Yes. When do we expect the fall of the king of the south to fall down or to be defeated? Yes? At COP. Who says COP? Yeah? So we expect Russia to be defeated, as the king of the south, to be defeated where? Sunday law. Okay? So when was, and we know the king of the south is Russia, right? So when was king of the south first defeated in our line? Where he received the death wound and death? 1999. So we have 1989 to 1991, right? So we have the fall of King of the South, and then we have what? The rise of the seventh kingdom, right? Good. So this history equals which history? Yes? Yeah. I'm not sure. Mimi ndio na so we have 1989, then up to 1991. So you have said from here, we have an history where we have the fall of the king of the south as the seventh kingdom is rising. And then I ask a question. This history points us to which history? A repetition equals to which history? Panium to Sunday law. So we have 2021 to 2024. And the question that we often ask ourselves, how did the king of the south, fell in 2024? You get that? So here again, we have the fall of the king of the south. Then we have the rise of the seventh kingdom. It's the same dynamic. And you know, this history was preceded by a 10-year period, right? So which began in which year? 1979. This also was preceded by a 10-year period, which began when? 2011. Okay. So you have to see those dynamic. And I think the proper question that we need to ask ourselves, even before we ask ourselves, like, how did the king of the south began falling from 2001 to 2024? We need to ask ourselves, what is the role of king of the south? I think that should be a good question. So let's go to Daniel 2 again, the scent of prophecy. So we have this crown, then we have this image. Here we have the arm, iron. So this is the earth. Do you agree that we have a mountain here? And then we have a stone that will crush that image. So this mountain, who is the boss? Who is the boss of this mountain? God. And God, we mark them as what? King of the north, right? And who is the boss of this mountain? Yes? Satan, right? And he's the first king of what? Yeah. And then with this crown, I think not sure whether it's the right approach of that verse, but I think that's how Ellen White approached it. That is Ezekiel chapter 21, verse 21. We can go there. Ezekiel, the book of Ezekiel. You know, Ezekiel was a prophet who was ministering for the Jews while they were in captivity in Babylon. So as you look for it, we realize that we have to compare and contrast, but we have also to be careful how we contrast them. So both of them are on the earth. We have to see something good here, bad and good, okay? So here, the stone is what? Good, right? The mountain is bad. But here also, what is the symbol of bad thing? Good is wheat, Cindy. Then the chaff, the bad is chaff. So, and Satan wants to counterfeit the true king of the north by claiming this crown to be his. So someone to read Ezekiel 21, verse beginning from verse 20, I think 25. Can you read 25?
And thou profane wicked kings of Israel, whose day is come, when it shall come on earth. Thus saith the Lord God, remove the diadem and take off the crown, this shall not be the same. Exalt him that is low and abase him that is high. I will overturn it, and it shall be no more until he come with right things, and I will leave it in.
Okay, the way Ellen White approaches that, you know, Ezekiel is in captivity, and the people, you know, they are traveling. When are we going back to our land? And you know, Ezekiel keeps reminding them of their evil, especially the kings that they had demanded during the reign of who? The reign of Samuel, because they demanded king, and those kings led them to rebellion. Now, because God was their ruler, now they decided that they need also kings, and this is the problem that kings had given them.
They led them into apostasy and rebellion until they were subjected to this other kingdom. So this crown that was taken from Israel is successfully passed down here until we reach here. And Satan knows this. He knows that there's a symbol of leadership here. So he wants to claim it, and he's going to use all means to do that. And I say use it peacefully at the same time. So, and the reason why we have the chaff, the wheat here, the reason why we have the wheat here, please remember the story of the sixth kingdom. The sixth kingdom is not just a bad kingdom. It's a kingdom that gives you freedom and equality, so it's you to choose. And when you see the chaff here, it's a symbol of people who have accepted, especially in the world, who have accepted, God's government, right? So we don't have a justification to say that sixth kingdom is still certain kingdoms. It's just a kingdom that God just put it there to give people, an opportunity to rethink their steps. So let me come to my topic. Now, this image, we have said the false king of the north. And you go to the book of Daniel 11. Do we see king of the south here? Babylon? No. Medo-Persia? No. When you come to Greece, something is inserted there. For what purpose? So you ask yourself, what's the purpose of the south? Not just king of the south, but the geography of south. So I just want to submit that the king of the south is specifically designed to be a symbol of protection, to defend God's people. So you go to Daniel chapter 11, you're not going to read, that's history that you need some your own time to read. So you go to Daniel 11 verse 5. That's why now we begin seeing this issue about king of the north and king of the south. And if you read this chapter, whoever controlled the northern geography, he became what? Or whoever controlled Syria became king of the north. Egypt was just there like it was Egypt because it wasn't so much, into those patterns. But the one who controlled Syria, because we had something like this one. We have the north, west, east, and south. So I'm pretty sure if you go to Uriah Smith, you read that chapter. This person, before he controlled the north, he had already conquered where? The west and the east. So when he had already conquered the west and east, he had what? An ambition. And what is the ambition? To take what? Egypt, the south. But it was very difficult for him to take what? And that's why you see that war was drawn. It was very long. It's a long war. This one was just taken within a short period of time. But this one, it wasn't easy. And that period, what is it teaching us? And I'm saying, with that longevity of the war, the king of the south acted as what? As a restraint against the king of the north, and specifically to defend you. Because that's the topic now we'll be looking tomorrow. Well, but that's one of the evidence that we can see the king of the south having a very long war, acting as a restraint against the king of the north. Number two, let's think about Abraham, right? Remember, there's that verse in the book of Genesis where it tells that Abraham and his family, they traveled towards where? The south. Can someone check that verse? So, you go to Old Testament, you realize that Abraham, when they had famine, they also traveled towards where? Towards Egypt. So Egypt acted as a sanctuary to protect them. Does anyone remember that? Yes.
Genesis 20. About language of city. That's why you see the king of the south in my external of the north.
Yeah, I said when this division, this is Daniel 8 verse 8. So throughout a short period, maybe let us say 10 years or less, whoever controlled the north became king of the north. Whoever controlled west became the king of the west. and east and south. But you realize the one who controls Syria later on came and conquered what? West and east. And when he did that, he had now the ambition to take what? The south. But it didn't take a short period to conquer south. You go through history, the king of the north, in that book of Daniel 11, he did not even take completely the south. It took a long period of time for him to do that. Right? And that's why I'm saying, why did it take a long period of time for king of the north to do that? Because we only remain with two geography, north and south. And I'm suggesting that because I may not remember full details of Daniel 11, all of it, you can just go and check what the implication. Have you gotten the verse? Yeah, which says, and Abraham journeyed towards the south. Yeah, can you read which verse is that? Verse 1. So I'm saying, if you go to that story, I'm not sure what was the. It's been a while since I read that story. What made Abraham to move to the south? After the story of Lot, yeah, chapter 19. So he sought refuge towards the south. Now the third one, someone can think of Christ maybe, went to Egypt. But I just want to bring the things that we know. Yes, Sabina? Okay. Be loud enough. I think that is the verse I was looking at. Yeah, Genesis chapter 12, verse. Okay. Okay. So let's think. Let us allow to bring things that we understand. Now, France. What about France? Murioki discussed this one yesterday. France. Was France the king of the south? It was both king of the north, and then it turns to be king of what? The south. You remember the French Revolution, how Ellen White pictured it, right? I know Ellen White pictures France as a very bad thing, but at one point, also depending on the context, you have to view France as a good what? Entity. In fact, we have done this study where we see that the Declaration of Human Rights, rights for women and men, were choreographed in the country of France. You see that, and we know France was the first power among the seven to give their allegiance to the papacy in 496 as part of the king of the north. But later on, they saw that system to be very oppressive, very bad, and they inflicted a deadly wound to whom? To the papacy in 1798. So it's called spiritually Sodom, etc. But what I'm picking there, if we use our model of Daniel 11, verse 40, we usually picture France as the king of the south. So France acted as a restraint against the king of the north in that 1260 period, up until we came to 1798. So that is the role of king of the south. The fourth one that you can think about is World War II, right? So from 1899, the line of Fatima, we have the papacy is rising back, right? Now, when you begin World War II, who does the papacy see as an enemy? Russia, communism, right? Now, the papacy needs someone to help him to defeat who? Communism, right? And who did the papacy use? Yes? Who did papacy use in World War II? You remember that book called The Hitler's Pope? Yeah? He used Germany to defeat, he wanted to defeat communism in 1945. But this history was a history of what? Failure. They did not position themselves to conquer communism. 1945,
Russia joins the Allies, the United States, France, and they defeated who? Germany. So the mission was not successful according to the papacy. So the problem still exists. So when we enter the Cold War, whom did the papacy again wants to use to counter communism? The United States. By the time we come to 1989, was it successful? Was it successful, Esther? 1989, was communism conquered? Yes, it was conquered. But who did the papacy now rule? No, his position was hijacked by the United States in 1989. And that's the reason why yesterday I was commenting about the Third Adoki War, the idea about betrayal. When Antigonus conquered Eumenes in 311, is it 311 or 30? The Battle of Gabin. So when Antigonus conquered Eumenes, he went forward to attack those who had supported him, Python and Seleucus, right? So there was a concept of betrayal. So which mark 1909, we have to see betrayal here. The United States just pushed the papacy aside, and now he took the role of the Seventh Kingdom. And that's why when you come to 1991, after the fall of the Soviet Union, Gorbachev, you can see the element of restraint. He tells George Bush, why can't we have this model of globalism, right? And what was Bush's response? No, we are going to establish our hegemony, that America first. You could see that idea. So the point, the last point that I want to bring to show that the King of the South acts as a restraint is the story of what? Someone can guess? Effie? That's an easy one. Anyone? The last point that shows the King of the South acts as a restraint to the King of the North. Just think about the midnight cry message. Yes? Pyrrhus. So how did Pyrrhus act as a restraint against King of the North? So we have Pyrrhus in how many faces? 2. Pyrrhus in Macedonia and Pyrrhus in where? So let's go to Pyrrhus where? Italy. Good. So we are going to have that structure that the midnight cry message drew. It looked like this one. Then something like this. Then we have this one. Yeah, right? Then what is the name of this one? Epirus. So Pyrrhus was from this. And then this was not Italy, right? So this is Rome. Rome in Italy. And then here we have Greek states, right? So who was controlling this side? Turi, right? And here, Tarentum. So this is where we are going to have this concept of the Battle of Ipsas, Heraclea, Ascalon, Beneventum, and what? Agos. So I want us to go to Great Empire of Bible Prophecy and to see how the King of the South here now is Pyrrhus. Epirus, we're going to have Pyrrhus here. So here in the south, Tarentum was more powerful, right? And also Tarentum wanted, to control the affairs of the south, okay? So when Tarentum attacked Turi, where did Turi go? Rome. He sought diplomacy with who? With Rome. So Rome was coming to do what here? He's coming to do what? To solve their differences. All right. So Tarentum realized that Turi had run where? To Rome. And also Tarentum doesn't want people to interfere with their issues here. So Tarentum ran to who? Pyrrhus. Now I want us to be careful how the approach that Pyrrhus used to solve this conflict. So let's go to GEP 218. You see how Pyrrhus was approaching this issue. Let me open my CD-ROM. I want someone to begin from page 1, paragraph 1, I mean. Those who are
together. This you can read then. Joy. So let's Joyce reading. Also, you follow behind. You can read yours. 218 paragraph 1.
Rome comes into history and into the affairs of the East through Macedonia and Greece. And in order to clearly state this, we must return to the point where we left the history of Macedonia. To be remembered that Pyrrhus, by the desertion of his army to Lysimachus, was obliged to resign all claims to Macedonia and retire to his own country of Epirus.
Thank you. So, after Pyrrhus defeated Macedonia, he went back where? To his own state of Epirus. Okay.
Shortly after he had returned thus to his own country in 281 BC, there came to him ambassadors from Tarentum and from all the Greeks in Italy, bearing to him the invitation to become their general, lead them in war against the Romans.
So that is the story that I've just given here. So Reuben has run to Rome. Now this one says Rome, because Rome is rising into power, is going to seek defense from Pyrrhus. Huh?
They promised that the Tarentines, the Lucanians, the Samnites, and the Messapians would bring into the field 370,000 troops. Pyrrhus accepted the invitation and immediately, as an evidence of good faith, sent 3,000 of his own troops across to Tarentum. The Tarentines then sent over ships to transport to Italy the rest of the army that he would take with him, 25,000 men. On account of a violent storm, he was driven to the coast of the Messapians, where he was obliged to land. The troops of the Messapians at once joined him, and he marched to Tarentum, where was to be the rendezvous of his whole army. Before the promised troops of his allies had come to him, he learned that a powerful army of the Romans was marching against him. Pyrrhus sent a herald to ask the Romans whether they would accept him as arbiter between them and the Greeks in Italy.
Let's stop there, Joy, first. That statement, so I don't want to repeat myself and what Joy has said. So Pyrrhus, he wants to act as what? A diplomat, right? An arbiter between the Romans and who? And these people, they want to solve conflict between Rome and Tarentum. So you want to use a peaceful means to solve their conflict, right? Now you look how Rome rudely answered Pyrrhus. Continue.
They replied, the Romans neither take Pyrrhus as arbiter nor fear him as an enemy. A battle was fought in 280 BC near Heraclea in Italy, in which the Romans were defeated with the loss of 15,000 men, Pyrrhus himself losing 13,000.
So what I'm getting there, Pyrrhus wants to restrain Romans, the Romans. There's no need to fight. You can solve your differences in a very cordial manner. But the king of the north is saying, no, we don't recognize you, nor do we fear you. It was a very rude answer. But right, Pyrrhus, the king of the south, was coming in good faith. Now, that's the first step that Pyrrhus took. The last one?
Pyrrhus next sent an ambassador to Rome to offer peace. But the Romans refused to receive any communication from him or to listen to any single proposition of his until he should have left Italy.
So you can see, let us stop there. Pyrrhus just wanted to restrain Rome because Rome was just coming to just appeal to them. Come and help us. Let us fight Tarentum. Now, when Rome was told that, the only means that he was used to come just and fight Tarentum directly without any diplomacy. But Pyrrhus says, no, we can't do that. Why can't we just sit down, use a peaceful means to solve our differences? And then Pyrrhus says, Rome says, no, we don't recognize him. So you can see this story of Pyrrhus, even when you go there, let us see Pyrrhus as a good person. despite all other differences there. But you can see the element here is that Pyrrhus is a restraint against the king of the north. Now let's now come to our line as we finish. How does it work in our land? And because Pyrrhus, when he asked Rome to stop it, and Rome just decided to go to war. Also, Pyrrhus decided to go to war. Say, okay, I won't stop. We'll see you fighting. Sometimes, even today, when you look at Russia, we may see Russia as a bad thing, but let us see Russia also as a defender. It's exposing the hypocrisy of the United States of America as a seventh kingdom. So, one last thing. Let's come here. This concept, how did Pyrrhus die here as the king of the south? Does anyone remember? Yes, he died in his own country, right?
Country of Epirus. In which year? So we have here the Battle of Beneventum, 275. And then we have here what? Oh, what? This is Beneventum, right? Then this one is 272. This is at Agos. Was Agos here at Epirus, at Epirus? Where was it? Okay. Which city? He died in a city, right? He was being chased, and then as he was moving, a certain woman dropped a block. Then it hit him, and then he passed on, right? Yeah? What? Okay, brick or a tile, right? But it's a woman who killed her, right? My question is, what the geography of that death? Where was it? Agos. Where is Agos? Is it here? Where is Agos? Because it tells us that Pyrrhus, as was being chased, he was running to his own people, right? He was running to his own people, and that's where actually he passed on. Let's leave that. Let's have one class. So, what do we say about the fall of Russia here? Is it from the inside or outside? What argument were we given that King of the South falls from the inside? Yes, Brian. Yeah. I just want to I do not go other stories, but this one too can be necessary for us here. That Russia is a principle, it fell from the inside. What is the symbol that shows us Russia has fallen? 1989. The Berlin one, right? Then later on in 1981, Gorbachev, dismantled the kingdom. Like these other kingdoms, these other nations like Romania, Central Republics, Czechoslovakia, they became independent, like Georgia, etc. But how did it happen? Because we say the king of the south falls from the inside. Can you demonstrate it in this time period? Who tear down? Remember the famous statement 1987 when Ronald Reagan met with Gorbachev. What did Ronald Reagan tell him? Mr. Gorbachev, tear this wall down, right? He told him that. So how did that happen here in 1989, November 9? Yes? Let me give you a hint. There's that study that Elder Test did about cause and effect. What is the cause and effect in 1989? Elder Emma? Yeah, and Poland? Yes. What is that? Yeah, you're good. What is the effect to the people within Russia? Sabina, you have something?
Something protest. Yeah. In Poland. Yeah. And other countries. Yeah. And those countries were annexed. They were part of the kingdom of the Soviet. Yeah. So that's what we're saying. The fall from the inside is when those countries that were aligned to Russia, they begin, protest. They want to detach from what?
From communism. So up until we come to November 9, they are the same people who tear down that wall, right? And that's why we say the king of the south falls from the inside. But it was so much orchestrated by Gorbachev himself because he was a leader with influence. And when you say, let us end these differences, those people, you know, they say, okay, it's over. So having that in mind, we have to see again, the fall of Russia has to be from where? Inside, that principle. And we need to ask ourselves, how does that fall from the inside, look like, right? Okay. I know Elder Terry has done a study about who? Navalny. Navalny to be a symbol of democracy, right? Because the issue here at Panium, we have simultaneous events, as Brian Obuya showed us, that here we have both the end of the Sixth Kingdom, and then we also end of King of the South. Just the way 9/11, we can have a simultaneous event, the arrival of the second and the third angel. So we want to understand how Navalny became a symbol for the fall of the King of South. From where? From inside, right? So let's do that. As usual, let's go to Vesper's classes, which was done 2022. I want to read a quotation about Navalny. So how do you pick Navalny? Is it a good person? Yes? Is Navalny a good person? Yes? All right. Prophetically is good. Okay. And morally? But prophecy is also moral. All right, let me just pick something here. My friend just shared with me. Alexei Navalny. So this is the topic called the far left and their multipolar vision. If you have that document, you go to page, I don't know which page is this. So let me just screenshot and then I'll share it. I'm going to share it in the group and then I'm not going to read it. One of you will read it. I once had that one from Elder Tess about Navalny. You just shared it to a wrong person. If someone is there, you can just read. That is the left and the multipolar vision. That is the quotation.
Joel, I've sent it to the group. Come, you can read it.
It reads, there is truth to the fact that there is an issue with Nazism and portions of the Ukrainian military. There's elements of issues the same way when you look at Navalny. Navalny is not a very good character if you didn't have to compare him to Vladimir Putin. If you compare him to Vladimir Putin, then yes, you would want Navalny let out and you would want him to topple Putin. If there was no Putin and they had a democracy, you'd never want Navalny in power.
Okay. So yeah, we need to have a fair analysis of Navalny. But in one sense, Russia, you compare with the United States is built on the foundation of what? Freedom and
equality. But Russia is not built on that principle. So you expect any leader who comes there may misbehave. I happened to watch a documentary by Navalny while protesting. He didn't have a good understanding of the subject of gender rights. In fact, it's xenophobic, right? It's homophobic, I mean, yeah. But if you compare with Putin, well, that's the line we're going to take him with. So let's get back to, I want to wrap somewhere here. Can just take a picture, then I wrap. So this is the last line I'm drawing before we. So just be reminding ourselves. So we have agreed from 1989 up to 1991, we see Russia falling from the inside, where we have those states attached to Russia as the head. They are becoming independent, just like Ukraine became independent here. So those countries themselves, they began having protests in Hungary, Poland. They were just like, and for communism and socialism. If we say King of the South is good, do you think socialism is something bad? Yeah? You have the mind that the King of the South restricts the King of the North. If socialism is bad, do you think capitalism has brought more wealth to people? Yes? Okay, that is a go study. All right, so 1991, this one is a repeat of 2021 to 2024. So let's come to now Putin. Putin was here as a KGB agent, seeing how Russia was just disintegrated. And to him, Gorbachev was just a weak person. Why couldn't he defend the Union, right? So let's come to 1999. What happens in 1999? I want you to help me. 1999. Yes? The rise of who? Putin. So after Gorbachev, who was the president? Boris Yeltsin. And because Boris Yeltsin, health-wise, it wasn't good in terms of handling, the policies. We have that line where you show that Admetus is the first one, and then is it that when Admetus was doing that study of King of the South, number 10 issue, that's Stalin, and then all right, you can just go there. So what I'm marking here, based on the context, we have rise of Putin. Putin as what? He's just appointed to succeed Boris Yeltsin. And he became president when? 2000, right? So we have here 2000. Now 2000, oh, sorry. 2000 again, we also have a presidential election. Where? In the United States. And that's where, prophetically, we identify an illegitimate president, W. Bush, right? And we're now going to see that during that period, George Bush and Putin, they're going to be at crossroad. All right? Show him, did I identify here? In fact, I didn't even identify this one, but thank you. So we can go to 2001, right? In relation to who? To Putin. So I want us to see Putin in the attack of American soil in 2001. How do you connect Putin to this one? How do you bring Putin as an individual in 2001? Yes, Shadrach. Good. But before we get there, when the radical fundamentalists, the East Wing, attack American soil. What did Putin do? Yeah? Good. So he was the first foreign leader to call who? George Bush, and tell him, we are sorry, we are with you, we are going to support you. So he had good faith. Say, we are going to support you to fight terrorism. So Putin became the first international leader to call American administration to say sorry for what had just happened. Well, let's go to 2003. All right, Shadrach. So you've said Putin became the first international leader to call American Bush administration to say sorry. At the same time, we have, what did I say in the morning about authorization for use of military force? So Congress say, like, those who participated in 9/11, they need to be sought, they need to be, punished. So we are going to see the nature of this one. And we know the mastermind behind 9/11 were 19 individuals, right? 19. And 15 were from which country? Saudi Arabia. We remain with 4. 2 were from United Arab Emirates. 1 were from, I think, Egypt. There's 1 from Egypt. Then the last one, I'm not sure. But what I know, 15 were from Saudi Arabia, 2 were from UAE. No one was from where? From Iraq or Afghanistan. Now, with the authorization for use of military force, they invaded where? Afghanistan first. Yeah, they say, like, Afghanistan was harboring, terrorists. But before you do that, you have to do some good investigation and oversight of what is happening. 2003. Now, this authorization for use of military force was again passed in 2002 by Congress to invade where? Iraq. Now, how do we connect Putin here now? We bring Putin here. He has sympathized with them, but again, he's going to tell them, I don't think Iraq has weapons of mass destruction. So we are going to go to which body? The UN Security Council. The 5 permanent members that have what? Veto powers. We have France, Germany, United States, China, and Russia. So what are Russia, China are telling United States? You have violated international norms. Like, what evidence do you have? And George Bush was just silent. And who was, pushing forward to go to Iraq? The 2 individuals that we discussed in the morning, Dick Cheney and Donald Rumsfeld, who was Cheney's, mentor in the 1970s. So they were the one who were pressuring President, no, we have to go there. Because even when the Twin Towers were attacked, where was the president? He was in one of the elementary school in, I don't know which state. And then he received report that our country is being attacked. And Dick Cheney and Donald Rumsfeld were in the White House, and they began, making ways to fight back. So the UN Security Council says, like, no, you can't do that. That is very unfair. But nonetheless, the United States went forward to do whatever it did in Iraq. But remember, we are in the history of what? Seventh kingdom. Speaking like a dragon. Speaking like a dragon, we'll see it tomorrow. What does it mean, speak like a dragon? Okay. 2003, now, when they opposed Russia's advice, Putin now was very aggressive. I don't want to figure out what he was doing here, because there was that school that had happened. He began also to purge the oligarchs there. He wanted to take control of Russia because he felt, this model that, Gorbachev say, like, let us cooperate together. America was just abusing the system that it had put in place in the 1945 to 1989. So another waymark that I want us to look is 2007. Joy. What happened in 2007? Because you you gave a presentation about 2007. Yeah, so we go to February 10, 2007, what you call the Munich Security Council. So what is the Munich Security Council, Joy? It's just a Eldaima? What is the Munich Security Council? Yes? I think it's just an organization that, a party that discuss security matters where? In Europe, right? They come and say like, on February every year, how's the status of Europe going on? How can we support each other? So in that Munich Security Council of February 7th, February 10th, 2007, this is what Putin said. I'm quoting him. Very often, we and personal I hear the calls from our partners, including the European partners, about the role that Russia should play, that we should be more active in international affairs. There's little need to urge us in this way. Russia is a country with a history that spans more than 1,000 years and has almost always favored pursuing an independent foreign policy. We are not going to change this tradition today. So what is Putin saying? We are going to act unilateral in terms of what? Their foreign policy, okay? Just the same way United States behave here. So sometimes, even when you blame Russia invading Ukraine, who is even making Russia to behave this way? The United States, right? It's just the United States. So what you can say, 2007, Putin declared war against the West. So we are going to fight. We are not going to to make laws for us, because when we told you stop invading Iraq, you didn't listen to us. So this is what Putin declared. And if you go to that meeting, the delegates there, they were worried about Putin's word. They were so much worried. So let's go to 2008. So in Russia, 2008, what is happening? Putin, 2 terms presidential election is coming to an end. He doesn't want to vie. And who did he choose to vie? Dmitry Medvedev. But Putin did not step down. He co-ruled with him as what? Prime Minister. And he told him, I'm just going to, we're going to work together. And you look at Dmitry Medvedev, he was kind of liberal one. He could just move towards where? In line to the West. So Putin was just checking what's going on. I put 2008, externally what's happening? Just outside Russia. Myra, Brian, 2008, what is happening? No, you're not Myra. Myra, what is happening in 2008? Yeah, I caught him off guard. He knows. Okay. Someone who was saying something. What happened in 2008 outside Russia? Financial crisis, right? The collapse of exchange stock market. And yes, so 2008 we mark the presidency of Medvedev and Vladimir Putin changing to prime minister. And that stock market, because the world as it is, it's controlled by the dollar system, okay? So Putin is still going offensive from 2007 onwards, just going offensive. And that's why from that time, 2008 again, what did Putin do? They invaded what? Georgia, right? That's why we have the color revolution happening, that we don't want to go back to the Soviet Union. So some events happening there. So with the stock market, it also affected, the world in terms of the rate of the dollar. So what happened in America also affects us. So let's go to 2009. So with this stock market, we come to 2009. I'm not going to discuss this subject. I'll deal it tomorrow, God willing. So what happened in 2009 in relation to Putin, Russia? Just a hint, there's an organization which was formed in 2009. What is the name of that organization? Can just guess that Russia is part of it. because that one now is the one giving America big trouble right now. It begins in letter B, BRICS. So 2009, June, it had what we call BRIC. Brazil, Russia, India, and China. But South Africa joined in 2010. Then it was referred to as what? BRICS. But right now we have many members who have joined it. So let's go to 2011. So 2011, what is Putin saying? He says, I want to run for what? Re-election. But the Russian constitution doesn't allow you to do what? To continue. So when he says, like, I want to run for re-election in 2011, what happened in Russia since the fall of Russia, Soviet Union? Protests, massive protests took place in Russia because of that statement. And who was the head of that protest? Navalny. So with the 2011 protest, Navalny was the head, against what Putin was saying, right? And there is this propagandist in Russia. It's called Petya who? It's called Petya Akopov. Yeah, what is his name? Petya Akopov. So Petya Akopov, with those protests happening there, he is a friend to Alexander Dugin. And Alexander Dugin is an individual who actually advises Vladimir Putin. So Petya Akopov suggested that, no, let us kill who? Navalny. But that one didn't happen. So, and 2011 is what? Is a prophetic waymark in the line of right? So I'm saying 2011 is a prophetic waymark. Which line gave us that logic? Just a Leach model, right? The 10-year period from 1831 takes us to 1841. Then you overlay 2011 to 2021. So it was a pivotal moment. And then that's where now Putin went rogue. He saw that this protest is happening where? Syria, it's happening where? Egypt, it's happening in Libya, and it's happening in many Middle East countries, and especially his friend who? Gaddafi. And when he saw that, he was afraid because he knows that Russia is always defeated from the inside. And what these people are doing, they'll repeat what happened where? In this time period. And remember, Navalny was the head of that protest. So in 2012, did he run for presidency? And he became president from 2011. The same year again, Xi Jinping became president of China. I think time is up. Sure. So I'm just going to leave this. I'm going to put 2024 here in regard to Navalny. And I'm going to put here 2020, then 2021. So what happened to Navalny in 2020? The first poisoning of who? Because he is the face that is pushing, protests in Russia. So the only thing that Putin could do is to eliminate him. And the first attempt was where? To poison him with Novichok agent. And then he was airlifted to where? Berlin, Germany, where he was treated. But because of his, ferocity, he wants just to defend Russia. He returned to Russia when? The following year, 2021, and he was arrested and charged for several counts, including the charges that were just like, falsely put on him. So in 2021, he's put into jail, his trial, and then remember 2021 now is Paniam, okay? And what Putin is holding something that will bring it down. He knows very well, and he has to constrain it. And accidentally, he was, shipped to one of the high prison in Russia. I don't know, in Siberia or where. where in February 2024, he was pronounced what? Death, all right? So the death of Navalny from 2021 to 2024, and especially because of time, 2021, we said, in the month of June, there is a speech that Putin gave. And what was that speech about? The reunification of Russia and Ukraine. And if he does that, he knows he has to deal away with the threats. And that is also Navalny. So that's what I have to say about Navalny and about the role of the King of the South. It's all about the King of the South is about restrain, to restrain the King of the North. And Putin doing that, it means the death of the King of the South. Now the big question is, why is still Putin acting rogue? We have read the 10 risks for 2024, right? Risk, I don't know which risk number, it says Russia still acts rogue, right? So what I will say, from 2024 to close of probation, you don't treat Russia as the king of what? South. You treat Russia as what? As a country which is part of Egypt, all right? And that's when tomorrow we'll be discussing BRICS, how that is going to be constrained. Question in the afternoon. Let's have a prayer. Holy God in heaven, we thank you for your goodness and mercies. Be thou our guide and our strong habitation, whereunto we may continually resort. May you give us clarity of thoughts, and that these truths may develop the lovely image of Jesus in us, that to be tolerant and patience towards one another is a humble prayer in Jesus' name. Amen.